Interstellar, yes, cellular, you comprehend our complex. From earthquaking to hearts breaking.
Hey. What's good with it? How are we today? Brother Smoke Break, what's going on with it? Oh man, I'm blessed. Any day above ground is a good day. That's what I will say. That's what I always say. Any day above ground is a good day. I'm grateful for every day the Lord blesses me with, man. How about yourself? How's it going? Any good news? Any updates? Any testimonies as I get settled in here? I'm starting a little bit later than I expected. I expected to start at 12, but my phone kept ringing. Good, man. Good. I'm glad to hear it. You know, one of the things I've really come to appreciate is that, there's no shortage of opportunities to be negative. What mediums do I normally use? I am a jack of all trades, master of none, but much better than a master of one. I heard that a long time ago, and it kind of stuck. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none is often better off than a master of none, if that makes sense. But no, not to be too clever. Usually when I do these streams, I'm working digitally. This is the beginning of my creative day, which is again late. But normally what I like to do, if you see the drafting table behind me, and I have that recliner chair right there, I like to start off my day traditionally, either just with old school pencil and paper, if that makes sense. That's where I kind of build the confidence and get the muscles loosened up. So I may work on some sketches and I may lay out some pages. Yeah, I like to start traditionally. I don't know if have you ever been here before? I don't want to even go on a rant to kind of give you some context. I'm not familiar if you've stopped by before or not, but I run an online comic art school. I have a whole nother platform. We have students all over the country. Yeah, maybe once. Yeah, so I have students across the country. Not a big school, so I don't want to give that illusion, but our students are scattered across the country, and they're adult students, and it's a 3-year program that I run. So we kind of take them through a medium-less curriculum, and so if I'm teaching, which is not often because I run the school, thank you, I appreciate it. I kind of bounce back and forth from traditional media to digital media. But it kind of depends on what I'm working on. So like here, I'm about to starting some concept design, some concept stuff for a title that I'm reimagining. I just got the t-shirt the other day. I don't know if you're familiar with Lion Man, but he's a public domain character. I do use Photoshop. Right, what I'm working in right now, Clip Studio Paint. You just see it pop up on the screen. Clip Studio Paint. As I'm trying to get more versed in it, my instructors use it. The instructors at my school use it way better than I do. And so, and I've had it since it first came out, but I was so stuck on Photoshop, I never needed to delve back in. But now that HonorStudios is revving back up, and because of its unique emphasis on comics and manga, unlike Photoshop, which was co-opted by artists and advanced by artists, but was initially intended for photographers and and photography editing. Clip Studio Paint, unlike Photoshop, is exclusively for the artist in mind, for the comic book artist and the manga artist, and its tools are way more intuitive for that. And so I'm trying to break the old man pattern, because Photoshop is now the granddaddy program. So I'm trying to break that pattern and just really lean into Clip Studio. I'm getting there. It's a process because I still want to do things like Photoshop, like my shortcuts and all that other stuff. Yeah, so yeah, especially since they changed the model, right? A lot of people are abandoning Photoshop because there's so many options out there now. Back when I started using Photoshop, literally during its inception in the 90s, it's the granddaddy program. It's the grandpa program. It's convenient. It's once you learn it, but everything else is you kind of get comfortable with it, but everything else is spawned from it. You started a Sketchbook Pro. That's what's up. Yeah, everything else is spawned from it. And so now that we're starting, with some new projects. Now, mind you, I'm using it primarily for concept design as well as and let me get started here. Let me just bring up some things for visual interest because I'm talking a lot. For concept design, like this guy here, I'm just gonna open up some random stuff simply so something's up here while I'm running my mouth. I'm doing some freelance toy design now on the side. This is a turnaround. But I find myself going back to Photoshop when I really want to just get something done, and I'm using it kind of like as a crutch, right? With special effects and the photo effects and stuff, and I'm trying to get out of that and trying to stay in Clip Studio. There we go. People who've seen this have probably seen all this before, who've been here before, but so yeah, man, I'm an open book, man. Ask me any questions. I will answer to the best of my ability. Okay, I'll answer to the best of my ability. As you're watching on Twitch, so I don't think it gives a description, but in my description, I'm an open book. No. So I'm about to. So I have a screen that I set up called "Shut Up and Draw." Right here. I'm setting up. I should have done this, but I was in a rush to kind of get on because I'd rather be on and get started than procrastinate and just say, "Oh, I'm not streaming today," which I am prone to do. So no. So I as soon as I hit, you'll see it in the upper corner. It's going to say "Shut Up and Draw" solo. That comes from my wife and another live stream that I do on Whatnot. When the audience, I get to talking and teaching because teaching is my thing. As soon as I get to shut up and draw, I'm diving in. And then I'll switch back to a screen that says, let's reason together. So all right, so let me go ahead and get started on the shut up and draw. Boom. It's here now. So I'm about to start drawing. And then when I finish drawing, I'll go here when I'm ready to talk. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Right. And I'll respond to comments and stuff after that. But let's get into shut up and draw. And so let me get into all right, so I'm going to start doing some character designs. I have a loose design of this character that I can kind of pull up on the screen for you to see. And I did this in Procreate, in case you're interested. I did this in Procreate. And it was never meant to be final, but when convention scene was upon me, and my school was scheduled to be at a convention. I needed some new prints, right? I needed some new prints, and so I went ahead and knocked this out and made it a print. But I'm going to go ahead and start piddling with this guy. It's a reimagining of Orrin C. Wells's Lion Man. So just a little bit of history for those of you all who don't know. Lion Man oftentimes is erroneously considered the first black superhero. That title goes, actually, if you know your comic history, it actually goes to Lothar. Superhero being defined as having superpowers, a heroic character with superpowers. Lion Man had no superpowers, but it was definitely one of the earliest. It was by the first black comic book publisher called All Negro Comics. If you want me to talk about that, I will as we move on, as I start sketching. But I'm kind of using this as a basis of where I want to be. I'm going to build from this. Most of the elements I'm happy with, believe it or not. Yeah, most of the elements I'm happy with, believe it or not. And I drew this in what I call a Western animation style. It's simple. It's not cross-hatching, not a lot of heavy blacks, more line work. Again, if you're interested in checking me out at Kapow School, my other platform, where I go more into the specifics on character design and the like. But this is in a Western animation style, which I define as open, not a lot of cross hatching and hatching or textures via line, but open, large blocks of color, heavy dark lines. And I kind of think this may be where, but I'm just going to be doing an exploration at this point. Let me go ahead and turn down his opacity a little bit. I just brought him into the same file. And so yeah, he's actually the character that gave birth to, despite what some pundits may agree or disagree, this character gave birth to Black Panther. I call him Black Panther's grandfather. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. You know, Black Panther made his debut in '66. This character is created in the '40s, and All Negro Comics was shut down because the saying goes, after issue 1, due to the social climate of the time, publishers did not like the idea of an all black publisher. That was not something that fell in good favor with that's my overhead, that fell on good favor with a lot of people. And so with that being said, they shut down All Negro Comics by refusing to sell them newsprint. And so it was Orrin C. Wells and a bunch of his friends and colleagues and his brother. And I believe his brother was the one who did the original Lion Man. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking this character and I'm repurposing him, and I'm honoring him. He's going to be honored. He's going to be a part of the HonorStudios canon since he's public domain, and I can reinterpret the character without fear of legal ramifications at this point. And so what I really want to do is I kind of wanted to reimagine him for a modern audience. But if you knew the story of Lion Man, it would be painfully apparent that this was the inspiration behind Black Panther. If you find that interesting, I'll go into more detail while I prep here and get my Go ahead and use blue today. Get my pencil ready. And I'm just blocking in the form. I'm not going to even try to do a full turnaround at this point. See if I can record this screen if it'll let me. If it's going to act right today. I always record a separate file for Kapow for different commentary. See? Yeah, it's not going to let me do it today. See? You're going to act funny. You're going to act funny on me today. Come on, show me some love. No, it's not going to let me do it. Yep, I keep getting an error message. Should it? Because I'm doing it out of order. That's what I get. Okay. So we're just going to go ahead and continue. Yeah, I'm just going to make a doll, a mannequin. I'm not worried about everything being symmetrical. I just want to get a feel for this character. There's some things here that I really like, and I don't know if I want to deviate too far away from this design, because when I did design it, even though I didn't go too in depth, I took some elements from, if you see the original character, there's not a whole lot to go off of. And so, you know, even though it was all created by Black creators, it's amazing how culture even influenced them and how they perceived themselves. They, you know, it was so much contrivance and appropriation of how society viewed African culture. And so literally my man had a headband similar to the one that's on with horns on it and a red loincloth. That's it, covering his unmentionables. He literally just had that. And not a lot to go off, which leaves a lot of room for creative license. Right? Leaves a lot of room for, I'm gonna try this one more time. I really don't like to go too far without having a recorded backup, and it's not gonna let me do it. It ain't gonna let me. Yep, it ain't gonna let me. Yeah, it ain't gonna let me. Darn it. That's all right. I'll pick up later. Yep. That's the beauty about Procreate. Absolutely. Get no argument from me, friend. That's why I bought mine. I bought my iPad just for Procreate, literally. It serves no other purpose for me to have on-hand recordings. I don't use it to surf on. It literally, I only pull it out when I'm sketching or doing other things. Like I do a lot of my prints in Procreate. And I still have the Generation 1. I have the Gen 1. And it's still pristine. The only thing is the battery life is kind of crappy. Yes, you can export as a layered file. Yep. And I encourage people to do that because I had iPad trauma a couple of years ago because I didn't know that Procreate did not save in the app like most other programs have its own dedicated folder on a device. It doesn't. Not for storing files. Everything's stored literally in the app and not on the device, unlike a lot of mobile apps. And so long story short, my my iPad froze And I just intuitively removed the app and reinstalled it, and I lost everything that I had worked on in Procreate. And when I say everything, I had probably around 50 pieces of work that was at various stages of completion. I mean, at least half of them were like 70 to 80% done. Pages, concept art, prints, the whole 9 yards. Everything was on my iPad. All those things were on my iPad. And I lost all of it. So now I tell people, save to the cloud often. Save to the cloud often. And frequently. So I'm always exporting just to the cloud, a PSD layered file. You said you draw as well. What do you do? If I may ask, if you don't mind sharing, what do you do? Okay. Thick women and creatures. Okay. All right, cool. That's what's up. Yeah, on this platform, like if you follow me at Kapow School, I'm going to start dropping actual lessons from our curriculum, as well as now in Kapow School, I work on non-HonorStudios stuff. And so just for clarity, like what I do at HonorStudios, these are primarily my own creations. Some have been published, some have not. We're looking to start some Kickstarters. We've been around for a while, 20 years, but many people have not. We've been kind of dormant. And so here I kind of work on all of my properties, which are, all of them have some type of faith core to them. I don't know if you're into that kind of thing, but I like to just let people know kind of, what they're getting into when they look at HonorStudios. But it's not preachy. Like I said, our claim to fame is, and not that there's anything wrong with preacher, because I'm actually a preacher. But use acrylics, gouache, watercolor. Cool. Oh, you went to Seattle. Cool. Seattle Art Institute. And so everything I do has some type of thread of faith, in the story, in the character, or in the actual commentary. But never at the expense of story. That's why our tagline is entertainment without compromise. I don't compromise on my faith, but I definitely also don't compromise on story. We marry both so that anybody, whether they believe what I believe as far as my religious practice, or don't, they can enjoy HonorStudios properties. There's something in it for everybody. So I think that's good enough. That's a good rough. I don't like to overwork it. Yeah, let's not overwork it. All right. I'm just going to lay in a basic figure here. Yeah, it's the law of diminishing returns. I don't know where you are in your journey, so I don't want to sound. I don't want to big bro you, but I've been doing this for over 30 years. I worked for Marvel. I've done work for Marvel. I started off in animation, working on Batman the Animated Series, Animaniacs, as an intern at a local studio here when I got out of the service. So that's a little bit about me. So if I talk, it comes with a little bit of experience. Hopefully you don't take offense. But a lot of people. Oh, cool. I appreciate your humility. A lot of people early on, and sometimes I still do it. Actually, one of my instructors, I had to kind of talk him down a little bit because he got a storyboarding gig, and that's what I've done. And anyway, he just overdid it. He really overdid it. Like really overdid it in how much detail was required. And I'm like, bro, you just like went above and beyond. You went above and beyond in the expectation. So knowing when to say when is part of the process. You know what I'm saying? It really is. Knowing when to say when is part of the process. And it comes with time. The more you do it, you kind of know the burden that you need to meet for your audience. Yeah, it's kind of like a comic book, but it's a lower creative demand, right? It's storyboards end where comic books begin when it comes to drafting, if that makes sense. Okay, storyboards typically end where comic books begin. The ceiling for storyboarding is the floor for laying out comics. You don't need to go hyper detailed and refine lines. All that's not necessary. And since he's again, this is my head instructor at my school. Since he's a native comic book guy, he kind of didn't know. And this is why comic book artists usually have a relatively easy time transitioning to animation. Many of us go over into animation. I actually started in animation and settled for comics due to my financial situation at the time. Like even with this, I'm not trying to go really super detailed with it. Just bring some basic features in. I got about a minute left, and then I'm going to go on my tirade of what I want to talk about today. I think I finally settled, for if you guys are watching on YouTube, I kind of settled on the platform that I really want this stream to be in the Christian space. Again, if you want a less, not omitted, less of the faith stuff, if that's offensive to you in some way, check me out at Kapow School, where it's my school. That's where I'm doing Spider-Man, Batman, popular characters, those kind of things. Yes, I'm a Christian. I'm actually lifelong Christian, man, believer. Uncle KB, yes. Uncle Diddy, yes. Diddy, that's my. Yeah, he got rid of the Diddy. Did he get rid of the Diddy? I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did. Okay, let me switch really quick here. That would make sense if that's how you found me. That would make perfect sense, and that's how you found me. Okay, we're about to switch in a little bit, and I'm about to talk for a second. That is funny. Okay. All right. Let's reason together for 10 minutes. All right. So recently, it might take a little bit longer than 10 minutes. So if the clock goes down, please forgive me. So anyway, recently I really do pride myself on giving 100% to each one of my days. I'm not going to go and run down what my days look like. That's neither here nor there. But I have a tendency to be very hard on myself when I feel like I'm not achieving or accomplishing what I set out to do. That's tough for me. And I'm not trying to make myself a monolith. I'm sure it's tough for a lot of people, but I believe that there are degrees to it. A little bit of backstory on me. I can tell this is going to take longer than 10 minutes, but hey, we can use it for other purposes. I have been formally medically diagnosed with major depressive disorder. Now, as a child of God, I do not submit to that diagnosis. I believe and put my faith firmly in Christ and his healing powers. By his stripes we are healed. And I have put systems in place to kind of compensate for it, like my workout plans and my daily walks and my reading and all the other things. I've never taken any medication for it, never been suicidal, all that, none of that. But that is my formal diagnosis, major depressive disorder. And so I tend to come down very hard on myself. And if you can relate, please leave a message in the comments. And recently, I had about a month and a half ago, one of my habits, because I'm very big on organization because of my businesses, because of ministry, because of family, the whole 9 yards. I need really strict, organized days where every hour has a name and a purpose. Okay. And I try to stick to that as often as possible, giving myself grace for having to pivot and not being too rigid. But what I have a problem often doing is being kind to myself. And so recently I had gone to my office. This is my studio. I actually have a satellite office that I'll sometimes stream from or record as well. But I was at my office and I noticed a pad of paper that I keep there that I had written on almost 2 months ago. Now, mind you, this happened last week. So about a month and a half, 2 months prior, I had done a brain dump. And a brain dump is just a practice where you get everything out of your head and onto paper so that you're not stressing over it, you're not fretting over it, the whole 9 yards. And so I'd done a brain dump about a month and a half to 2 months ago. And it ended up being 20 to 30 things that I had to do for HonorStudios, for my studio, for HonorStudios, for my school, from payroll to partnerships to the whole 9 yards. And so to website, all the things. And so seeing it on paper really, really overwhelmed me, really overwhelmed me to the point where I kind of pushed it aside and I forgot about it and didn't look at it. Okay. And so fast forward to last week, I come into my office and I was in a low place. Still feeling the residual grief from losing my mom a couple of years ago and just kind of reflecting on where I am in life and, all the things that all of us can relate to. Okay. We can all relate to feeling as if we're behind and we're not on schedule. We're not on pace. We're not on purpose. I know we can all relate to that. And so I was in one of those headspaces, people. And so, I looked and I saw the pad of paper there. And I'm like, wow. And I saw the list of things to do, the 2 pages. I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh. So in my skepticism, in my way, I grab a pen, I grab the pad, and I'm about to just give myself a report card. And I'm going to see how much I have not done in that time. Okay. That's how my brain works. I'm going to see what I have not done in that time. And so, I grab it and I start crossing things out. Boom, boom, boom. And by the time I was done, in the past month and a half to 2 months, I had actually accomplished everything on that list. And you would think that I would feel really good about that, right? Normal convention will say, oh, wow, pat yourself on the back, hurt your shoulder. You did okay, bro. You did the thing. Not your boy. My first thought was, dude, what is the matter with you? as God is my witness. It's like, what is wrong with you, man? And what I had a problem with was this. When I'd seen everything that I had gotten done, I found it very problematic that I had accomplished all these tasks and didn't take time to appreciate the micro accomplishments. And that was a problem, to the point of being self-deprecating, because I always feel as if I'm not doing enough. When I tell you I have very big ambitions and the tools and the materials to actually bring them to fruition with the grace of God and with his strength, that is not a humble brag by any stretch of the imagination. You'd have to know me to fully appreciate it, or kind of be in my circle. So I'm not even going to go into it here. But the way I'm wired is I always feel as if I'm behind, is if I'm letting down my family, as if I'm letting down my team at HonorStudios, as if I'm letting down my instructors at my school, the guys who work for me, as if I'm letting down my students. I always feel this heavy burden that it's not enough, because in what I'm always focused on is the big overarching goal, right? It's the big overarching goal. And it bothered me for some time, to the point of last week, by my standards, was not a very productive week in any way, shape, or form. And so fast forward to today, I'm talking to my sister on my way home from the gym, from working out this morning. And, we kind of have become each other's proxy for our mom, because we both used to talk to her in the mornings. I'm the oldest of 5. And so we frequently call each other just so we have that morning familial connection and conversation to start our day off with love and regard and encouragement. And she's a powerful woman in Christ herself, her and her husband. And so I'm talking to her and I'm telling her about that situation. And I said, I'm so focused on the big goal that I lose sight of the small wins along the way. And if you listen to today's social media circles, that would seem admirable. We can actually frame that in a way that it's very flattering and be perceived as a virtue. But for every virtue, there is an equal opposite vice that we have to really come to acknowledge and appreciate. And the vice is not giving yourself grace in the moment, right? Not taking time to smell the flowers. See, when you're a big picture thinker, again, when people say, I'm a big picture thinker, they say that as a badge of honor. I've historically always framed it that way. And so it's not unreasonable to hear that and say, oh yeah, you're a big picture thinker. We want to hire big picture thinkers. We hear it in entertainment and, the whole 9 yards, having been in those circles in business. Yeah, you gotta be a big picture thinker. My sister really helped me calibrate this morning. She says, you know what, bro? She says, you're the opposite of me in that regard. She says, the big picture scares me. This is my sister talking. And so instead of focusing on the big picture, which can feel overwhelming to me, I focus on just moving the needle. But remember, bro, I got that from you. You used to always tell me when I started my business, just move the needle a little bit every day. You eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? We've all heard that. And she says, hearing you talk like this, I find it interesting because you focus on the big picture where I focus on the little wins. She says, I put the big picture there, but I don't look at it because if I do, it will intimidate me and overwhelm me. This is what my sister told me this morning. She says, but you focus on the big picture and you miss all the little wins along the way. I said, yeah, and that's a problem. I have to change that. I said, because especially knowing that there is this thing lurking that waits to overtake me, call it a spirit. I don't know. I don't believe the people of God can be defeated by demonic powers. I do not believe that. Call it what you will. This thing labeled as depression. Knowing that is always waiting to pull me into Lodi bar, right? Pull me into the dark place, right? To if you've seen Get Out, the sunken place, or if Stranger Things, the in between. Knowing that that's always there, waiting to drag me down, I have to be very cognizant and aware when things are not tracking as I feel that they should. But what I can't do is be self-deprecating to the point where I'm putting so much on myself that I miss the small victories that the Lord would have me partake of, to help keep me encouraged, to help keep me reinvigorated and motivated and keep the momentum going. And so that conversation really blessed me. So again, I told you guys this morning that my phone's been ringing all day. And so my brother cousin called me from Texas. He's the one that helped me record the HonorStudios testimonies that will be here on Facebook, outlining the path of HonorStudios as we come back from our self-imposed exile. And so he calls me this morning, and so I tell him about the conversation. And the reason I call him my brother cousin, because he's cousin by relation, but we relate like brothers. We talk almost every day. He's in entertainment. He worked for Facebook. He's now working for a company with starting a new thing with Japan. He does a lot of stuff with AI. Went to the Art Institute in Schaumburg, where I lectured at when I created War in Paradise, our flagship comic book. And so he calls me, and I tell him about the situation this morning, and he's like, Lord, cuz the Lord had me call you this morning because I needed to hear that. He's like, I needed to hear that. He says, because he and I are wired very similarly. And I said, there's got to be a scripture somewhere, because I always look for a biblical foundation, a spiritual precedent that I can really latch on to, because we know as people of the Most High that wherever situation that we're in, there is a parable, a story, a scripture, a passage in the Word of God that we can utilize for our benefits. The Lord put it all there for our edification, for our growth, for the edification of the saints. So I started looking, and I could not find anything on being kind to yourself, right? We all know the scripture that says, be anxious for nothing, but with prayer and supplication, make your request known unto the Lord. We know that. But you can call it anxiety. I don't know that, but I wasn't asking for anything. And so I came across the scripture, John 14:27. And I think this kind of hit home, and hopefully this blesses you. And it's here on the screen. You can see it says, peace I leave with you. Now, this is the Amplified version. I like the Amplified version because it carries it all the way out. My perfect peace I give to you, not as the world gives to you. Do not let your heart be troubled, nor let it be afraid. Because my heart was troubled, y'all. My heart was troubled because I felt like I wasn't tracking, that I wasn't progressing, that I was disappointing those under my charge. It says, let not your heart be troubled, nor let it be afraid. Let my perfect peace calm you in every circumstance and give you courage and strength for every challenge. Now, this is the Amplified version. Read the version of your choice. Hopefully it is as impactful as this was for me. Hopefully. But it really helped me recalibrate today. I needed that. As I get caught up in, like, I have productivity planners everywhere. So I'm always writing down what needs to be done. This, and there's always something when you have small businesses. People focus on the Fortune 500 and, the billionaires and those making 6-7 figures. I am none of those. Okay. I'm a small time creator that is looking to leave something behind for their children and my grandchildren now, as I have 8 of them, and so I'm not in those circles. I'm not yet. With the grace of God and with you guys' support, hopefully I will get there. But at the very least, I've really come to appreciate the toil and the struggle of the small business owner, because you have to be everything. whether it's in ministry, whether it's, in my case, comics, animation, and games, having a school with employees, an online school, you're going to get overwhelmed. And with all the things that you know that you have to do, take time to relish in what you have accomplished. I'm ministering to you from my situation today. Just FYI. Okay, most of the stuff that I'm going to be giving here on Honor Studios is going to be things that I'm dealing with, that I'm pondering, questions that I pose to you, the whole 9 yards. And so that's what I have right now. So let me go to the comments with my guy Smoke Break. Yes, grief is tough. Nothing prepared you for grief but more grief. Well, the Lord gives peace. Is peace. He said Eric Thomas helps. Eric Thomas is a great motivational. You know, he's from here. I'm from Chicago. He's from Chicago. I'm in Chicago. I'm in the suburbs of Chicago now. But yeah, we're both local boys. I used to really consume. Actually, one of my coworkers from CPD is part of Eric Thomas's crew. If you watch 9 to 5 Millionaire, Jamal King, he and I were on CPD together. I was a tenured cop when he was a rookie, and we were in the same district working midnights together. And shortly after I retired, when I saw him on Eric Thomas, I reached out to him, and he called me as I was recovering from my shoulder replacement. So Jamal King and I are acquainted. We're not friends. We're acquaintances. But Eric Thomas and his crew are doing good work as far as motivation and encouragement. And I know that he's now pastoring the whole 9 yards. Yes, I am a retired Chicago police officer and went on to another department shortly after. Yep. And I'm also a disabled Army vet as well. So in my short time, I've done a lot here. I'm grateful to the time that the Lord has granted me here. Eric Thomas had a rough go. He had a really rough go. His story is very inspirational and encouraging. I, as a motivational speaker, I definitely endorse him in that category. Yes, as a motivational speaker, he's that guy, and he's worth his paycheck in that area. Oh, you're 11 Bravo out of Fort Lewis, 2 deployments. That's what's up. Yeah, that's what's up. I was in the 90s, right out of high school. I was 31 Victor-10, and yes, out of Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and then went overseas. I was Title 10, but I got hurt, and so my unit went over to Iraq. I did not go because I was still recovering. It was a much different army. We still had a lot of guys from the Korean War that were our superiors. and so it was a much different army back then. Much different. My brother-in-law, who's now a pastor, he did a couple of tours in Afghanistan. And he even said it. He said, it's not the army. See, when I was there, it was still ground forces. And so we had bayonets, and I was actually the first wave of the digital revolution in the armed forces. My job was digital communications repair. And so prior to my class, the army was still, the whole military was mostly analog in their communications. We came in learning computer repair and technology and programming. And I had to literally swap out the old systems and put in the new high-tech digital signal hopping radios into the tanks and to aircraft and all the things and trucks and vehicles. But prior to me, the class, I think they were Lima. They were laying down wire in the field during combat, wire and connecting boxes with phone, and so yeah, we were the first. I was part of that first wave of the digital revolution in the armed forces. Yep, good stuff, man. Thank you for your service, brother. Thank you for your service. All right. So I see somebody else just joined. I'm 28 seconds. That's what we're talking about today. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to ask them. I'm about to get back to shut up and draw. I'm gonna get back to shut up and draw, and so just wanted to get that. But here at HonorStudios, I want every live stream, if possible, to actually be something substantial, and hopefully ministerial that encourages you. Hopefully, brother, I said something that encouraged you on today, or those of you watching, something that encouraged you if you're watching. Sometimes I feel like I'm screaming into the ether, but that's all right. All right, so we're about to shut up and draw. Okay. All right. Oh, my daughter's texting me to see if I can pick up my granddaughters. How did I know that was going to happen? How did I know that was going to happen? No, in a second. Let me reply, because I am stranded here. Man, I'm glad that you came to join me, brother. I'm glad. I like company. What I'm doing right now is I'm prepping myself as I really lean into what the Lord has given me for HonorStudios to be, that it's okay to just talk to myself, and put it out there and let what happens, and let the Lord do the work. Yeah, let what happens. And so I appreciate any company. If not, I'm just going to be sitting here and drawing, doing all the things, and letting it be what it is. Let me put in a headphone too. I do. I do that on Kapow, at Kapow School. Yep, I do that at Kapow School, and we do that at conventions. So if you want to shoot something my way, do that. It would be on that platform. Kapow School is KAPOW School, one word, at Kapow School on YouTube and on every social media platform. It's at Kapow School. And you get to see more of my non-HonorStudios stuff there. Again, that's where I do Spider-Man, Batman. That's where I kind of draw the stuff that draws the crowds. No one cares yet about HonorStudios properties. Yep, Kapow School. Yep. Yes, my friend, Kapow School. My old system is dragging a little bit. I can tell by how my pencil is moving so slow. So I'm gonna quit Google, which is eating up a lot of resources on my processor. Time to upgrade. I am learning how to use all the tools though to save time. So this iteration of Lineman, the subtitle is called Legacies and Legends. I don't know if you can see the shirt. Lineman, Legacies and Legends, right? And so it's we kind of pick up in modern day times, and I'm going to reference the original all Negro comics as much as possible. And again, the sweet thing is that there's so little canon on the character that I really have like a blank check creatively to just go ahead and kind of make it what I want it to be. That's an ideal situation. The thing with a lot of characters that have a lot of canon to them, even if they're in public domain, is that audiences can oftentimes be a little resistant to the creative, licensing that can happen when you're trying to really reinvent a character. And I probably have literally almost every brush known to man at this point. Sometimes I have brush confusion. And you really don't need all of that. And see, I'm not being precious with it at this stage. I'm just kind of laying the stuff in and letting it do what it do. You do studies. Blue Marvel. Oh, so would you like to hear a Blue Marvel story? You might find this interesting. Would you like to hear a Blue Marvel story? Well, I'm going to tell it anyway. So my son and I, we have another YouTube channel called Generation Geek, right? And Generation Geek, so he's like, man, Soul, you got a lot of channels. Generation Geek is growing fast because of the nature of it. Again, it's not necessarily a Christian, even though he and I are Christians. We call it family friendly. So our guests may not be of the same belief system. And so Generation Geek is kind of where my son and I get together, him just turning 30 and me being his dad. And we explore geekdom and fandom, and we share in that on our platform. And so our first guest on Generation Geek was Kevin Grievous. And Kevin Grievous is the creator of Blue Marvel, right? And he's also you can check that out on Generation Geek if you're interested. Generation Geek. And so Kevin is actually, yeah. So Kevin is actually, if you know Kevin Grievous, I don't know if you're familiar, but for those of you who are not, Kevin was also the creator. He did the first draft and treatment for Underworld, the Vampires versus the Werewolf franchise. And so he was also given a role in that. He is the black werewolf with the deep voice Rays, for those of you all who don't know who Kevin is. But Kevin is a fellow believer. And he and I have since, on that interview, is actually our most watched video. We have become really good friends. And we talk regularly now, at least once a week. And we're constantly texting each other. But he's proof that there are a lot of believers in the industry that love the Lord, and are, again, he's Hollywood, incredible creator. I actually recently reviewed his book, Dark Storm, on our channel. I reviewed his book Dark Storm, and I promised him I would have another review of his most recent book, Dark Storm #2, that just came out. He actually he appreciated my review, which I'm very grateful for. I'm just a guy with an opinion. But I kind of critique it from an academic and a professional standpoint, not from a, just to be critical. Yeah, he was the big guy. He was the big guy. That's the creator of Blue Marvel. That's the creator of Blue Marvel. Yep. That's the creator for Blue Marvel, in case you didn't know. I'm trying to find a texture brush. And right now, this is where I'm just kind of playing, because I really don't know what all I got in here. But this is me learning. Just so FYI, y'all, this is me learning. I'm looking for a specific texture to see if I can see how it translates. I don't know if I like that one. That's distress. Yes, he is the creator of Blue Marvel. We'll probably talk today, actually, because he sent me some videos that he wanted. We have these really in-depth, thorough conversations. And my wife is like, is that Kevin? It's like, yep, that's Kevin. Because we'll be on the phone for a minute. Really, really cool, brother. I'm grateful for the opportunity to kind of just make a friend. You know, when you reach a certain age, your friend quota kind of drops. You know what I mean? Of how many slots you have available. And when I say friends, I mean like real, like people that you make an effort to connect with on a regular basis. It's not a bad one. Distress Messy Ink. That's not a bad one. That's some good texture. Cool. Yeah, as you get older, you know, you start, you're not really looking for friends at a certain point. You know, you got responsibilities of family, and so when you are fortunate enough to meet somebody that you vibe with, you know what I mean, on so many fronts, you know, do yourself a favor and lean into it. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, yeah, we can do the friend thing. And again, he's older than me. I think Kevin may be 60, maybe. I know he's older than me, which is also refreshing. What? See, I gotta remember that's hide. I don't want to hide. Okay. See, this is me still learning these commands. Delete outside selection. Delete. Shift. Delete. Where's hide selection? Show border. Don't show border. There we go. I gotta make a shortcut for that. Oh man, that's what's up. Yep. Actually went out to California to see him last month. Yeah, he's a robust brother. There was a small Christian comic book convention in LA, and my brother, who again is not a brother by birth, but a brother in the Lord who mentored me creatively, and he lives out there. So it gave me a reason to go out there and kind of connect with the Christian comic book scene since we're coming back out. And he's out there too. And he was going to be at that convention. He was the one who actually mentioned it to me. So I booked a flight and I went out there to hang out with him, and we went to dinner and hung out at the show, and it was just really good to connect with him face to face. So yeah, I was just hanging out with him about a month ago. Have I ever worked with Assad Ribic? No. One of my favorite artists? No. Is he Middle Eastern? I thought Assad Ribic was Middle Eastern. Is he Middle Eastern? Not that it matters. I'm just curious. I thought he was Middle Eastern. Yeah, I think he's Middle Eastern. No, never worked with Assad Ribic. He's above my weight class when it comes to. Everybody's above my weight class. I tell everybody, even my students, I don't exaggerate my resume. I've just been fortunate enough to do a few things here and there, mostly freelance. Assad Ribic, yeah. Then you like to stuff with Gore the God Butcher with Thor. And I love Assad Ribic, the stuff that he did with Secret Wars. I love his work. Great guy to study. And I think his work was uninked. I just think they colored over his pencils. Oh man, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. My claim to fame is amongst, like, if you check out the other YouTube channel, Kapow School, you'll see interviews that I've done with acquaintances and my mentor and friends in the industry. I actually turned down the opportunity to work in the industry. And so those who know me kind of know me as the guy who had the nerve to turn down DC Comics when they wanted to hire me to work on Superman. But I'm like, that was never my dream. My dream was just to be good enough to work for the mainstream. My dream has always been HonorStudios. Always. From the moment the Lord gave me the idea for it. He inspired me with it. It's always been HonorStudios. HonorStudios are bust. And sorry, I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole. Let's go ahead and lay down his... Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. That blesses me. That blesses me. I don't want this to look too much like like my man's character, because I critiqued his book on Generation Geek, Eric July, and let's just say not a fan, but I appreciate what he's accomplished with his efforts. I'm just not a fan of the finished product. So I don't want him to look too much like his character. But I'm just going to block in his anatomy. And this is just going to act as a digital doll, basically. So I can start exploring creative options. My show's a little bit broader. His palm open just so I can start building on top of this dude. Nothing too fancy. It's like I'm gonna be babysitting tonight. He said the industry is unkind to new people. You can own something as well. I'm gonna see if Kevin, and I'm sure it's not going to be an issue. I know he's working on a couple of movies. His next directorial movie. But I already told him I wanted him on here on HonorStudios, because he does the typical comic book circuit, and he's not shy about his faith, and so I'm gonna have him on here at HonorStudios to kind of sit down and y'all can partake in some of our our conversations, and hopefully you'll find him as humorous as my wife does. Soaking out the wisdom. We do more. What I like about our conversations is that we push each other. It literally is an iron sharpens iron situation, and he and I both talked about it. Is that I think the thing that endears us to one another is the fact that we can disagree without taking it personally. It's not personal. We're really trying to learn from each other and to become stronger, and that really is the ideal, in my opinion, iron sharpening iron situation. Because what a lot of people don't understand when they so let's talk about it. Let me switch. Let me switch. I got to get used to the rhythm. All right, let's talk about it. So when I say that it is a legitimate iron sharpens iron situation, what I mean is this. When people speak of Jeremiah, I believe it was Jeremiah. Is it Jeremiah? I'm about to mess myself up. When I'm in this mode, it's hard for me to shift mentally between creative and biblical. Proverbs 27:17. Yes. Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another, right? Or the countenance of his brother. And so and I'm looking for that at this stage of life, to be quite honest. If I'm looking for anything in a friend or an ally or a compatriot, is someone that can actually bring value and make me better at this stage of life with the experience I already have, and help refine me and help calibrate me on some things that I may be in error in. And the reason I say at this stage of life, as we know, as we get older, we have a tendency to get very cemented and adamant in our positions, in our ideals, in our perspectives, right? We kind of, as you get older, as the gray comes and the hair disappears and you start getting the wrinkles and all the things, we become kind of rigid in our thinking and are not open to a lot of new ideas or different ideas for that matter. And so for me personally, as someone that sincerely wants to leave here better than I came, I relish the opportunity for these Proverbs 27:17 moments where I can find someone that is well-intentioned, right? Yes, set in your ways. Where someone is well-intentioned, well-informed, and well-experienced, bringing that experience and adding it to mine. But that doesn't happen with ill intent. And so with me and this brother in particular, we push each other and we challenge each other and we disagree. I think that is something that is so lost in today's landscape, is that if you disagree with me now, then you hate me, right? This is why many of us as Christians are being labeled as haters. And yes, in any group or category, there are extremists where there is genuine hate and disdain. But more times than not, that is not the case. That is not the case. I grew up in there. I'm Generation X, okay? I just commented on a guy's Instagram the other day. I am Apex Generation X, Apex X, born in 72. And so I have a lot of the old school proclivities, but I'm very open to new school concepts and operating systems. I don't like to be locked in and limited in that way. But with that being said, I come from a generation where we literally used to throw hands and fight as kids. Because I grew up from the hand throwing generation, right? They don't do that no more. I grew up on the south side of Chicago in the hood, where throwing hands was as much a pastime as it was a way of self-defense. Okay, you threw them things. But if you got your butt handed to you, you just got your butt handed to you, and it wasn't personal. Oftentimes we'd go get some potato chips and some pop or some Kool-Aid, and we'd be talking at the park. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. And we just got finished fist fighting. I grew up in that. Okay, that's where I grew up. I grew up in that generation. And so all that to say this, we could disagree almost to an extreme and it not remotely enter the realm of hate. And today people are so hypersensitive, especially when it comes to Christians, because if you are a true Bible talking, faith walking child of the Most High, truly endeavoring to be Christ-like, not a conservative where your faith is uniquely and exclusively defined by your politics. No, I'm talking about a real follower of Christ. If you are that, then people are quick, because of the stances that we take, to label us as haters, okay, or non-validating or non-affirming, or it's these extreme positions that people take. And I'm like, no. I can disagree with you and still care. I can disagree with how you move and operate. What it does is, just like your sin separates you from God, the way you navigate your life, if you choose a lifestyle that's contradictory to my belief system, there's going to be a limit into how close we can get. There's going to be boundaries and borders, but it doesn't mean that I hate you. It may mean that we're not breaking bread. It means that I may not be spending, especially if you're not open to my belief system and my Christian lifestyle. If you are resistant or even volatile against it, the level of intimacy in the relationship is going to be severely hampered at that point. But it doesn't mean that I hate you. That's not what that means. That just means that I'm unwavering in my faith. That means that I'm not going to compromise your feelings for my faith walk, your ideology, or your sexual preference for what I believe. I'm not doing that. And we should be okay to move forward, however that looks, without hate, vitriol, and disdain. I wish death and destruction on no person. Okay, but in today's landscape, it is so refreshing to meet people, even in the faith. We see it on Christian YouTube, right? One of the reasons I've been so slow to kind of really launch out here with with HonorStudios on YouTube specifically, is because I've been studying Christian YouTube and actually have family members that are significant influencers in the space. I won't call them by name, but it wouldn't be hard to make the connections. But a lot of the infighting in the church and the heresy hunting, not saying there's not a place for that, but when that's your focus and reaction videos as a believer of Christ, when I see all of that, I'm like, what can we expect from the world if we are expressing similar disdain and hate for somebody that claims to believe what we believe? Okay. I do believe in the church as Christ outlined it, but a lot of times, to your point, Smoke Break, church, he says, church isn't for me anymore for you. You are in good company, sadly. The church has disappointed. And here's the funny thing. It's not the church, it's the people in the church. And so what I want to encourage you in is taking your eyes off the people in the church and keeping your eyes on God and what his word says. Because once we know that, it's easy to identify those that are operating outside the bounds of how Christ said we should move. Okay, a lot of times we blame the church as a monolith for the shortcomings of people in positions in the church, because many of them are ill-intentioned. Everybody that claims the mantle of Christ, they're false flagging. There's those that are false flagging. I don't know if you guys know what false flagging means, but back in the day, in the hood, right? If you wore a certain color, red, blue, right, or had your hat cocked to a certain side, and you got challenged by somebody that was in that crew, and you couldn't recite the creed, or you didn't know the handshake, you were called false flagging. And you could catch a severe beat down, or it could possibly even cost you your life. We're talking about the 80s and 90s, okay? But you got a lot of Christians that are false flagging. False flagging. And that's legit, because here's the calling card, the ultimate calling card to everyone who claims the mantle of Christ is love. All things filtered through the lens of love. Now, what does that mean? That does not mean that I approve of everything that you do. That does not mean that I validate you in your error and in your sin. That's not what love looks like. Actually, love looks quite the opposite. I don't know if you have children or somebody that you love, but love also looks like correction and calling out wrong for the sake of that person's life or livelihood, or in our case, their soul and their spirit, right? The word of God tells us that if he did not chastise us, the Lord did not chastise us, we were as bastards, right? That is a more accurate representation of what love should look like. It's not affirming. It's not I go along with you with whatever you want to do. Okay. No, it looks nothing like that. It looks nothing like that. And so we had the church as a monolith is often blamed for the shortcomings of the people within the church. Okay. And just like, me being a cop for almost 30 years, the cops that we see that get it wrong, that's not everybody. Actually, that's not even the vast majority. It's not. It's not. It is the select few that slip through the cracks due to faulty systems, insufficient training, broken psychological exams, nepotism, the whole 9 yards, people ignoring certain character flaws, the whole 9 yards. But to put the entire organization in that same light is unfair, because and it's unjust, because in any system, I don't care if you're a teacher, I don't care if you are a baker, I don't care if you're a doctor, we can find bad apples in every sector of society. Every sector. But oftentimes the church is, because the expectation is to be so much more. The expectation is righteousness. The expectation is uprightness. The expectation is godliness. The expectation is care, right? Because the expectations are so high, whenever any person falls short of those that are not as grounded and cemented in the word or knowledge in the word, oftentimes walk away. And I understand that, because it's trauma, it's hurting. That's not what they expected to get from us. Okay. Having been raised in the church, I've seen all of it. All of it. I've been the victim of much of it. I was in leadership in a mega church here in Chicago. Okay. It's a hospital, it ain't heaven. And in a hospital, it's a lot of sick folks. If we saw the church more as a hospital and not heaven, we would appreciate all the sick and ill that are there. Okay. Because like in any hospital, if we run with that metaphor, there's more patients than there are doctors and nurses. My mom was a nurse of 30 plus years. Okay. My daughter-in-law is a nurse. There's way more patients than there are practitioners. Okay. The church is no different. The problem is when people that are patients are elevated to positions of authority and they still ain't healed and recovered or gotten the treatment they need to actually dispense the healing truth of the gospel and the love of Jesus Christ to others. And that's what we see a lot of times. And sometimes it is lack of sufficient oversight from those in leadership. Sometimes it is the leadership can be fooled. I've seen that happen where they thought someone was something that they were not. And this person was able to say all the key words and knew the secret handshake and knew enough scripture and, spoke profoundly from the pulpit. Inside, they were rotten to the core. I've seen it, but I want to caution you, Smoke Break, not to reject the church as the bride of Christ, because she still is, in her brokenness, in her less thanness. It's still enough there. It's enough there. And there are people there, right, that operate with the purity of intention, that really want to do God's will here on earth and expand his kingdom. There are people there. Okay. But you got to look for it, and you got to know what you're looking for, and you got to hold it against the word of God. That's what I tell everyone. Okay. Right now, my wife and I are between churches. We're actively looking for churches. Now, mind you, our criteria now is a little bit different because we're both leaders in the church. We're elders. I'm a licensed and ordained minister. I could pastor a church. I've actually been offered pastorates, and I've turned them down because I don't believe that's God's calling for me. I'm not going to let people put me in that position. God has to sit me in that position. And until he speaks to me as he has done in the past, I'm not going to take that position. I'm going to operate as a minister of the gospel of Christ, seeking to do the Lord's work with the gifts that I have. But we're looking for, and again, because we know what to look for, we know the questions to ask, we know the warning signs. Okay, we know the warning signs, and we're able to get ahead. But that came with a lot of trauma. Right? That came with a lot of scars, a lot of disappointment. Getting to this place in our walk, it came with a lot. Okay. I was the nephew of a pastor that was cheating on his wife with several women in the church. Okay. And it was a small, mostly family church. The ones that wasn't family, he was smashing. Okay. And so when I tell you trauma, listen, man, if that being that close to it, if anybody had a reason to walk away, it's your boy. Okay. Because I saw the abuse from the pulpit. I saw the weaponization of the Bible to suit someone, the twisting and the weaponization of the word of God, twisting and weaponization to abuse and to gaslight people in the congregation to cover up his mess. And when it came out, this brother had destroyed a whole lot of lives. And this man was married to my aunt. Okay. He was married to my aunt. I'll share in a future broadcast my experience from the church without calling it out that we just left. And I probably will share, if you guys are interested, next time I stream, we can talk about it if you show up. If not, we're going to talk about whatever's on deck. But you said, I find myself, see what you say. I find myself being content with meeting Christian people. A church home is important to me, but at this point, I just visit my friends' churches. I would say that is good. I would encourage you strongly to really seek where the Lord would have you plant roots, where you can serve, because I think that is the ideal position that every Christian should be striving for, is to serve. And in service, that's where you get, in my opinion, you get the bulk of your training in evangelism and in what walking out the faith really looks like, right? We don't get that just from sitting in the pulpit getting spiritually fed every Sunday. It's from volunteering. It's from participating. It's from getting out there. You know what I'm saying? So, but you do that at the place that you have roots. Okay. I want to go back and see if I missed something here. Oh, Jack, I've been here. I'm sorry. I missed him if he's still here. Are you still here, Jai? I wish I could. If you can like phonetically spell that out for me so I don't mess up your name. He says, I think it's really interesting how Jesus kept going to the place of public worship habitually, even when he called out the leaders prioritizing traditions or finances or prestige over God's decrees. Yes, you're still here. Hey, friend, how are you? I'm sorry. I'm trying the format where I kind of focus on drawing for a little while and then do the commentary and have the conversation, as we're trying to kind of grow here on social media. But I want to make sure that the mission of Christ is tended to and not just watch soul draw session. That's well said, though. That's well said. Said you're going to Bible study tonight at one church and serving at another church Friday for repast. Good. Please, brother, if I know we don't know each other, but hopefully you can hear my heart. Okay, you can hear my heart as we seek to do it ourselves. So don't take it as a position of hypocrisy. My wife and I are avidly seeking a church where we can serve, okay, and bring the experience, the biblical and spiritual maturity to a ministry that is open to it and the head is wired rightly. Okay, because the past two churches we've been at, and we were in leadership in both. Again, I will share those later because we are going long here. The last two, the angels of the house, the pastors, were not in alignment with the Holy Spirit and with the Lord, but we still served. We know the Lord sent us there. And here's the thing. Those that kind of know the journey that we seek counsel from and that we confide in, they're of the inclination that the Lord is prepping me for my own ministry, for my own church. I have to be open to that. I'm not seeking that because, again, if I didn't know the goodness of the Lord for myself, if I had not experienced the sweetness and the depth of passion that he has for me, personally, on my experience alone, I would be in despair and done with the church as a whole. But because the Lord has been gracious enough and merciful enough to show himself to me personally, and again, if you're on YouTube, subscribe. I will be posting the videos outlining some of the testimonies that led me to this point in time with HonorStudios, where I really kind of go into the deep dive on what that looks like. But if I had not known those for myself personally, I would be in complete and utter despair and probably done with anything that looked remotely Christian. And that's the truth. It's his mercy and his grace and his willingness to show himself to me personally through the Holy Spirit and through others that has given me hope based on my experiences. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I thank you for lurking. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope you hear me, Brother Smoke Break. I hope you hear me. Okay. And welcome to the Honor family, man. Welcome to the Honor family. I'm going to go ahead and check out here really quick. But let me just do a little bit of housekeeping at the end. I said I'm going to do this always at the end now for those who follow this far. If you like what you've heard thus far and you like what I'm laying down with HonorStudios, please consider supporting the mission of HonorStudios at honor3k.com. That is our Patreon. As we start to really move forward in fulfilling the commission that the Lord has given us personally as a studio, any support that you're willing to offer, you can do so there. And if you're not there, please continue just to like, follow, subscribe, the whole 9 yards, share, clip, wherever you're watching from, do all the things. You can check us out at HonorStudios.com for more information on us as a studio. I'm actually going to be adding some things to the site. But this is going to be a regular occurrence now. I took a little break from streaming, but to kind of see where the Lord wanted me to be and kind of process. Now I kind of think I know what that looks like for this platform. And so thank you guys so much for your support. And you say you're usually a lurker. I'm so glad that you did not lurk today. I'm so glad you did not lurk today. And I hope that if your time allows and that you are in a position to do so, that you continue to join and comment, keep me company, if you can. If you can't, check out the replay, Brother Smoke Break. Check out and I respond to everything. If you reach out to me on social media, I respond personally to everything. Yes, I am profoundly busy as a veritable one-man show with multiple platforms. The only one I'm not a one-man show is the one I have with my son. But I take time and I respond to everything personally. And so I don't have an assistant. I ain't that big yet. And so I can't afford one. So God bless you, and may the Lord keep you in his prayer. With all that being said, I am D.R. Solo Perry of HonorStudios Entertainment. And remember, in closing, the Lord has not forgotten about you. Do not judge his goodness and his mercy by the failings of those in the church, because it is still his bride. And there are enough of us. There is a remnant that remains within the body of Christ that sincerely want to do his will here on earth. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you guys. God bless you and keep you is my prayer. God bless. Solo out.